Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Your hosts, Joseph and Michelle Whalen, a husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics, are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom.
Welcome to Insights into Entertainment. This is episode 37. Dude, where's my ride? I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my brilliant and insightful co-host, Michelle Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing today, sweetheart?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, dear?
I'm doing fantastic. So we have quite a full show.
We do.
Yeah, when you talked to me earlier in the week about it, you seemed to suggest it wasn't that full.
Well, what was kind of funny was up until yesterday, I had like one thing, and that was it. And I'm like,
everything exploded all at once.
Everything kind of exploded at once. And went, oh, we actually have something to talk about.
So in our Disney Detective, we will be talking about over $20,000 in attraction parts being stolen from Disney World. Then we'll talk about some news with the Little Mermaid live movie coming out. Then some Disney Plus series information before we move on to our entertainment news with our friend Samuel L. Jackson responding to some criticism. Then we'll talk about Animaniacs news. Yeah, I know. I was never a big fan of that show.
I know.
And then Dwayne Johnson is in 12 other movies again. I swear he's literally the hardest working man in Hollywood.
Sure is.
Like he's in 5 movies a year.
Yeah, if that, maybe more.
Then we have some local movie news with Mark Hamill filming in our neck of the woods in New Jersey here with a new movie. We'll have a brief in memoriam, and then we will finish up with our insightful picks of the week. So, very full show today. Ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Go for Disney Detective.
So this was kind of a funny story, but not really. So Walt Disney World has reported that $20,000 worth of pieces to a pair of Magic Kingdom attractions have gone missing from their storage area. Last week, a Disney employee noticed that a set of sails used on the high-flying Peter Pan ride were gone in the storage shed that's held behind Epcot's test track. And then while he was doing the inventory counts, he also realized that a shell from Space Mountain was also missing. Disney had declined to provide any more information on what the shell was used for on the ride. The materials attendant contacted the planning manager, who then notified the sheriff's office the following day. None of the items have any unique markings or serial numbers, so it's going to be kind of hard to find, I guess. It was a mystery as to how, the theft occurred and, the products left. Because you're figuring it's not like it's something you can just put in the, in your pocket and walk out. We're talking, big, massive,
12-foot sails.
The sails and the shell of the ride. So, the items were in a padlocked storage area, and fencing around the shed was also there, according to the report. So a Disney spokeswoman declined to comment, calling it a law enforcement issue. The black market for rare Disney items is a very lucrative one. There's actually, if you look on eBay at any given time, there's usually always something, a piece of a park ride or a costume or something. There's even, a company that's outside of Orlando that sells, used things, and you kind of always wonder how they get some of them. Just this past May, a former Walt Disney World cast member was arrested after entering a restricted area in Disney and stealing and reselling over $7,000 of items from the Haunted Mansion. His arrest warrant also detailed fact behind the missing Buzzy audio animatronic that was also stolen back in December, as well as the audio animatronics missing clothes, which were sold for $8,000 on eBay. So obviously, if you look on eBay,
we'll see. And
this is where you might find the guy.
So
who
just
took
a couple of things on this one. First of all, they estimated those $20,000. Now, is that $20,000 the material cost of it, or is that $20,000 what they think it's going for?
I'm guessing it's probably the material costs for and both of those.
My second point is it's stolen property. How can you sell it on eBay if it's stolen property?
Right, and that's the thing, is as soon as somebody tries to sell it online, or
there has to be a black market for this stuff to buy it.
Exactly.
eBay would not be the black market I would choose to do that
and that's the thing, is it says that there is a black market for there are people that get their hands on various Disneyana of some sort.
And that's no different than the black market for art smuggling or antiquities or whatever.
Right.
You just don't list it on eBay. Someone doesn't steal the Mona Lisa and put it up on eBay.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see, if this surfaces. And the other thing too is Disney didn't have any cameras or anything.
Well, see, and given the sheer size, I mean, just talking the sales from the ride, just given the sheer size of these things, you can almost bet it was probably an administrative screw-up somewhere where stuff was being moved. Maybe. It wasn't documented properly, and somebody went to look for the stuff where originally it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So this, because I can't imagine somebody walked, you have to come in with a tractor trailer to get these out.
Right.
And
and it's not like you can just carry it or put it in a little box and just,
We're talking about fiberglass shells of sails that are 12 foot by 12 foot roughly.
Right.
You're not picking these up by hand.
No.
You're using a forklift or something to put these on a flatbed to take them out of there. And I can almost guarantee you it's probably just an administrative screw-up on Disney's part.
Well, I guess we'll find out if there's more that come out afterwards.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us about The Little Mermaid Live.
So, not to be confused with The Little Mermaid movie that they're doing. So there were actually two Little Mermaid projects that they're kind of doing at the same time. One is the movie that hasn't started filming yet, that's coming out I think later next year or the year after, but then they're doing Little Mermaid Live, which is actually going to be on television. So ABC's upcoming live staging of The Little Mermaid has added Amber Riley to the cast. Riley will appear as the MC for the show that will present the Daughters of Triton with a special performance for King Triton and his subjects. The rest of the cast includes, and I had to write her name phonetically because I knew just looking at it I was going to screw it up, and I'm probably going to still screw it up, but it's Auli'i Carvalho, who she actually is
I couldn't even help you out with that one.
She's actually the actress that did the voice of Moana.
Oh, okay.
So that's who. So she has a beautiful singing voice.
Absolutely.
So she's actually going to be playing Ariel. Then Queen Latifah is Ursula. Shaggy is going to be Sebastian. John Stamos is Chef Louis, and Graham Phillips is going to be Prince Eric. Riley obviously is best known as one of the stars of Glee. She has also previously performed with Queen Latifah in NBC's live version of The Wiz. She's been on Broadway. She was actually in one of the seasons of Dancing with the Stars and won. She's been in Dreamgirls, one of the revivals with that. So, she has a fantastic voice. So The Wonderful World of Disney presents The Little Mermaid Live will be airing on November 5th. So just around the corner, and I actually saw a commercial for it on television, just last night.
So is the live version they're coming out with on ABC a promotional thing to get interest in the movie?
I don't think so. I think they were kind of two separate
So then what's pushing the revival of Little Mermaid? Is it an anniversary coming up?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know. That's why, and I think that was why, like, there were so many conflicting stories when, news about the movie was coming out and who was going to be playing. So, like, Jenny McCarthy playing Ursula
Right,
and whatever.
right.
So it was kind of like, so this sounds more like this is going to be more of a musical,
Right.
where the Little Mermaid movie coming out might not be as much of a musical as
So now
as
this is just a one-time live performance.
Yeah,
They're not
just like
doing
they've
it
done
on Broadway or anything
no,
like
just
that.
like they've done with Grease, and
Right.
they did
Well, I mean, they've all been on Broadway.
right.
So I guess my question is, this isn't kicking off a Broadway run or anything like that.
Not that I know of. No.
Okay, cool. So Disney Plus has announced a docuseries that'll be coming out. We got some details on that.
Right. So this is actually one that definitely piqued my interest. So according to Variety, Disney Plus has ordered 10 one-hour episodes of a docuseries entitled Behind the Attraction. The series will actually take viewers into the history of how popular Disney attractions and destinations became to be, and how they changed over time, and how fans continue to obsess over them. The series will feature interviews with fans as well as Disney Imagineers and other behind-the-scenes shots. It's kind of one of their quintessential projects, said the VP of the original unscripted content for Disney Plus. He said that best-in-class storytellers collaborating across multiple Disney units to pull back that rich history. It's going to be a very special series. Behind the Attraction right now doesn't have a debut date, so it's probably still, in process of being filmed. But I'm sure, as a Haunted Mansion fan, that will definitely be one of the episodes.
So have they peeled back the details on this to let us know what rides they're going to be detailing?
No, there's
or anything
been
like that?
nothing. This was the only thing
Because
that's
we
been
have
out.
a couple third-party
Right.
DVDs
Of
documentaries of people that have done the ride and stuff like that.
Right,
Various
right.
parts. We've got
Yeah, we have a
the,
Haunted Mansion one.
the Disneyland one, the opening in Disneyland, and then some of the behind-scenes stuff.
Right,
and
right.
They've gone in and interviewed some of the Imagineers. I'm kind of picturing it being like that. Is that sort of how they're portraying it?
I think so, and from what I've read, again, there hasn't really been a whole lot, more teasers than anything else. But that's what it kind of, sounds like it'll all be, with probably footage from when the rides were first opening, and from when they were the scale models of them, up until opening day.
It was this third party DVD that we learned about the gum catcher in the mechanics of Haunted Mansion.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Cool stuff like that would be interesting to see in there.
So another reason to, sign up if you haven't already. And we haven't yet.
But I'm sure we will.
I have no doubt that we will.
We've already decided to sacrifice Hulu in favor of Disney Plus.
Right.
It's a good trade-off.
Sacrifice the gods of Hulu. Ooh.
So that's all we had for Disney Detective today.
Yes, that is it.
We'll be back with entertainment news. So Martin Scoresese had some things to say about Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, actually, it was the reverse.
Well, it was in response to things Martin Scorsese said.
Martin Scorsese had actually made a reference saying, a couple weeks back that, right now all there are Marvel movies, nobody's going, there aren't quality movies out there. Everything is a Marvel, superhero movie. And Samuel L. Jackson kind of came, to the defense with remarks, coming back saying it's kind of like saying Bugs Bunny, ain't funny. Films are films. Everybody doesn't like, his stuff either. He said everybody doesn't like his stuff either. I mean, we happen to, but everybody else doesn't. There's a lot of Italian Americans that don't think he should be making films about them and things like that. Everybody's got an opinion, so it's okay. It's not going to stop anyone from from making movies. So basically it was, not everybody likes Marvel, but not everybody likes gangster movies either. So it was an interesting, thing.
That just sounds, awfully clean cut for a response from Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, he was out on the red carpet, at an event, so I'm guessing there was probably a not so clean version of his commentary.
I expect more colorful commentary from him.
Yeah, so, Scorsese actually had made comments while he was promoting his latest film, The Irishman, which is a Netflix crime drama about Frank the Irishman Sheehan and his dealings with various crime families, as his hitman. He basically said, I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. He told Empire magazine, honestly, the closest I think of them as well as they're made is that the actors are doing the best they can under these circumstances. It's kind of like a theme park. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotions, psychological experiences to another human being.
And this is Scorsese saying
and this was Scorsese saying that.
He did not see Endgame.
Obviously, he did not, because that was an emotional roller coaster.
Totally.
If there wasn't one. Heck, the end scene. If you haven't seen it, we won't spoil it. But dude, that was just heart wrenching. Both James Gunn and Joss Whedon actually both came to the defense of Marvel movies in the wake of the comments. Obviously, because they've both directed them, but. Yeah, it was kind of like, why would you, and I guess my thing is, why would you be a bully about it? Like, that's almost what it sounded like.
Well, and to me,
or maybe not a bully, but
no, we'll go with that thought, because in this week's episode of Insights into Teens, we had talked about this, and when people act like this, it's because they're threatened. Mm-hmm. And, and the fact that Endgame came out and made so much money, broke all these records.
Right.
And Scorsese, who comes out and thinks he's making these wonderful artistic movies and isn't getting a tenth of the crowd, he feels threatened by it. So he's going to come out and attack it, just like any bully out there does.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the whole thing is, you look at, and, look at Scorsese. He has this wide, history of movies. It's not like he's only made, 5 movies in his lifetime. He has, this whole library of films that, yes, are great films, but, not everybody is into watching, gangster movies or mob movies, but then not everybody is into superhero movies either. So
but that's where I would lodge my criticism of Scorsese, is that he, much like other directors, has a very set recipe for his movies, and he doesn't step outside that comfort zone.
No.
And that's a discredit to him as a director.
Right.
The movies he makes are very good for what he's making.
Right.
But either he lacks the courage or the constructive, fortitude to step outside of that.
Right.
And, like, I would offer him a director's job for a Marvel movie now, and say, okay,
you try,
you come in and you do it, and
right.
you do justice to it.
Or the other thing too, and not to say that there aren't other directors that do this, but it's always the same actors in his movies too.
Right.
It's
so it looks like it's literally the same movie over and over.
It's like, oh, what character is this? Now, granted, with Marvel movies, you have to use the same actors if you're using the same character. Captain America is Captain America, and now everybody knows.
Until it's the new Captain America.
Until it's a new one. But then you'll have the explanation of it, but you couldn't have, just a different actor.
Right. Robert De Niro will probably not fit well in a Marvel movie in a costume.
Probably not. That would be kind of funny,
But, I lodge the same complaint against other directors like Tim Burton.
Right.
There are people that swear by Tim Burton movies. But to me, they all look the same. They're all dark and brooding and depressing, and
I like Tim Burton
with
movies.
a little bit of comedy mixed in, but they all look the same.
Right.
M. Night Shyamalan, same thing. All his movies are the same thing with a twist at the end.
What a twist!
What a twist! But that's my point. Is it's like
Everybody has their niche.
Right, and that's the thing. A truly great director doesn't have a niche. A truly great, and this is like, as much as I hated Last Jedi, Rian Johnson stepped outside of his normal comfort zone to do that. And I give him total props for that. He failed miserably at it with Last Jedi, but at least he stepped out of what he normally does to do that. So I got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
You know, and Scorsese complaining about Marvel movies. Well, clearly people go to see superhero movies.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't.
Right.
But he's also like 90 years old. So it might not be his cup of tea.
Right.
But you got no right going out and criticizing an entire genre of clearly successful movies because you're threatened by him.
Right.
Anyway, let's talk Animaniacs.
So I was very excited about this, and
that makes one of us.
Well, yeah. So they are Animaniacs, and they are making a comeback with the same voice cast that made the original such a blast. Yes, the poorly constructed parody sorry, I was just reading. So the Animaniacs are ready to announce a reboot on Hulu. So, of course, now that we're getting rid of Hulu...
Oh, are we going to have to keep it now?
I don't know. Well, maybe we'll see. We'll see when the series comes out. So Rob Paulsen will be back as Yakko, and Tess McNeil will be back as Dot, and Jess Harnell will be back as Wacko, once again delivering his signature Ringo Starr voice parody of a character. So this is really fun news, you know, for anybody that was an Animaniacs fan. Right now, nothing has been in production, but from what people were saying, that the art of this reboot kind of, you know, looks like the classic Animaniacs cartoons with a little bit of Ren and Stimpy type vibe of the show.
Oh, because I love that too.
It's best, you know, and that's probably for the best because a lot of kids love SpongeBob and have that, you know, zany look about it. So, you know, it definitely looks like it's going to obviously speak to, you know, the grown-ups who watched it as kids, but obviously have, you know, something for, you know, kids of today. I know our daughter, there's some YouTube video that they kind of take one of the videos from Animaniacs and kind of revamp it, and she gets hysterical watching it. So, you know, to be able to actually see, you know, a new version of it, you know, she might actually enjoy. They basically said, we can't wait to work with Steven Spielberg and the entire team at Amblin and Warner Brothers to, you know, produce more sketches and catchphrases and songs and laughs for kids and adults everywhere. And this, you know, like I said, it's going to be another, you know, thing for Hulu, you know, because they haven't really had too much, you know, out there. But didn't Disney Plus and Hulu have like a package deal too? Wasn't
Disney owns Hulu,
right? So there was that.
More, from what I've read so far, the more adult stuff
is supposed to be going over to Hulu, right? So, you know, yeah. So maybe we'll have to, you know, see when it comes out.
I'm kind of divided on this one. Like, the nostalgic part of me is like, oh, okay, it's cool. You bringing back something that we loved, some of us loved as kids. But the creative side of me is kind of disappointed at this because it's like, oh, great, another reboot. Have we absolutely no creative talent left to come up with something new?
And that's something, you know, with everything, not just with the cartoons, but with, you know, various movies and things like that. And, you know, when we talked about with, you know, Terminator, the new version of Terminator that was basically, you know, wiping out, you know, all the other movies.
Right.
And you have all these other, you know, movies that they're doing newer versions of or whatever. You know, even television shows, they've done that too, where they've, you know, basically
you've got Magnum PI, you've got Hawaii Five-O,
right.
And it's like, you know, I know the negative Nancy in me thinks that it's, you know, I'm down on all this stuff, but
right.
I wish there was more creativity out
and that's
there.
been for years now that they've been doing that.
But
the
problem is most of these reboots usually ruin what the original was.
Right.
Until you go back and you watch the original, you're like, oh my god, did I actually watch this stuff?
See, so in some cases, not so bad.
But yeah, okay.
I don't know. The kid in me, is kind of excited, about seeing, Animaniacs again. And it's been years since I've watched it. So it would be kind of interesting to go back and find older episodes and see, if they still, have that same, appeal. Because there are certain things that you go back and watch it, like you said, and you're like, oh my God, that was so not funny. Like, what was I thinking? Yeah. And then there are other things that, you watch and you're like, oh my God, this is totally,
yeah, like I was
totally
very impressed with Hawaii Five-0 when it came back. Mm-hmm. So I don't watch it anymore because I got bored with it. But
right.
So let's talk about one of the 15 movies that Dwayne Johnson is in this year.
So Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt will be in The Jungle Cruise, and the trailer for the movie actually just dropped the other day. So the pair star in the trailer for Disney's Jungle Cruise, which is, they have it. It's an early 20th century adventure that follows the riverboat captain Frank, who is played by Johnson, and a scientist who is played by Blunt, as they venture into the wilderness. Neither Johnson nor Blunt are strangers to the Disney family, obviously. He has voiced Maui in 2016's Moana, and she obviously played Mary Poppins in last year's Mary Poppins Returns. Jungle Cruise is based on one of Disney's oldest and most enduring properties. The original Jungle Cruise Disneyland ride opened in 1955, and during the D23 Expo in August, both Johnson and Blunt promised an adventure that puts a new spin on the ride. Think Pirates of the Caribbean meets Indiana Jones. They said that we are both so moved and honored to be in a movie like this because we grew up madly in love with Indiana Jones and Romancing the Stone, Blunt had said on stage during D23. So to be part of something like this in the same spirit makes my heart race. The film also stars Jack Whitehall, Edgar Ramirez, Jesse Plemons, and Paul Giamatti, and it'll cruise into theaters July 24th, 2020.
So this one is kind of interesting because, again, it's another one of these Disney rides that's been turned into a movie.
Right. Yeah. And what was kind of funny watching, so if you go in and you watch it, there are those, if you've ever gone on the Jungle Cruise ride, there are those, one-liners that they all, no matter how many times you go on it, certain puns are always mentioned, and in the one scene they show something and they go through like 3 of them,
right?
And you're like, okay, so that's how they're kind of tying in the ride, but other than that, that's really
you're on a jungle cruise.
You're on a jungle cruise. It kind of, it was funny because before reading the article and just watching it, I was thinking, a comical jungle cruise, not Jungle Cruise, Raiders of the Lost Ark, something right. Indiana Jones-ish, and then it had that, vibe of Romancing the Stone, they don't show if it's a romantic, thing, but it kind of, had that, oh yeah, I think I've kind of seen this before.
Yeah.
African Queen even,
that was kind of my first impressions when I saw it.
Yeah, like the African Queen, but if it was a comedy.
Right.
So it has that look about it, she hires him to, take her into the Amazon, type thing, and so we'll see.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Johnson's always fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell us about our filming in our backyard with Mark Hamill.
So this was an interesting little story that popped up earlier in the week. There was one news outlet that had this, and then another popped up with a little bit more information. So Vineland, New Jersey, and Millville, New Jersey, which are in like south South Jersey, if you
The deep south.
the deep south of Jersey. Also happened to be where I work. So this was kind of funny. So Vineland and Millville are getting ready for their close-ups. A new feature film starring Mark Hamill and Sean Astin will film in both towns beginning sometime next week. The movie is called The Retaliators. Filming in Vineland is expected to take place at the Palace of Depression, which...
Oh, that sounds cheerful.
I was like, really? And I don't even know how to... Game Pietro Park? I'm sure anybody that is from Vineland could probably tell me how to pronounce that. And that was based... according to the Daily Journal, which is a local paper from the area in South Jersey. Sites scouting in Millville include the upper reaches of the Maurice River, which isn't too far from where I work, which was kind of funny because somebody else from my office had posted about this as well. And I said, ooh, are we taking a road trip during lunch sometime? So if we happen to leave the office for a couple of hours, if we hear about something, we might be going to see if we can find anybody. So the project utilizes the New Jersey Film and Digital Media Tax Credit, which is a financial incentive for productions primarily filmed in our state. Cumberland County actually offers the state's highest tax credit incentive at 35%. So the South Jersey Film Alliance is handling the film's locations and amenities. The SJFA is also behind a production of Army of the Dead, which is a Netflix zombie movie that's actually currently shooting in Atlantic City, also our neck of the woods.
Which is fitting, because if you get a block off the boardwalk, it does look like Armageddon.
I was waiting for you to say that. So details on the movie haven't been publicly released, but a representative told the Daily Journal that the movie involves a man who tries to help people find justice by capturing a suspected criminal. The film will also feature all 5 members of the metal band Five Finger Death Punch. Ooh, sign me up.
Gonna have a great soundtrack on that one.
So obviously Hamill is known for playing Luke Skywalker.
He is.
He is. We've seen him a couple of times in that.
I thought I recognized that name.
And he's also done the voice of the Joker in the Batman the Animated Series. And Astin was obviously known for Samwise in Lord of the Rings, Mikey Walsh in The Goonies, and Rudy. From the self-titled movie Rudy, and also he was in last season's Stranger Things as well. Wow. So that'll be kind of cool to know that, right in our backyard, or something exciting is being filmed. So
very cool.
Yeah.
That's it for entertainment news. We'll come back with
that was it.
Brief in memoriam.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about a fallen Mouseketeer.
So Karen Pendleton was one of the original Mouseketeers on the Mickey Mouse Club, and she unfortunately passed away from a heart attack last Sunday in Fresno, California. Disney historian had actually made the announcement. She was 73. Among the youngest of the kids on the show, she was known for her shoulder-length blonde curls and for being paired with fellow Mouseketeer Cubby O'Brien in the show's sweetest closing number, Now It's Time to Say Goodbye to All Our Company. So...
Wow,
so
nothing like taking us down a depressing road now. Jeez.
She worked on the Disney series throughout its 4-year run on ABC, then entertained generations of children around the world for decades after it played in syndication. She was one of only 9 kids who actually appeared in the program during the entire run of the original airing. She was recruited to audition for the Mickey Mouse Club when producers approached dancing schools in the Los Angeles area seeking kids to try out for this new show. After the Mickey Mouse Club, she left show business, finished high school, got married, and had a daughter. Unfortunately, she got divorced a couple years after that. in 1981. In 1983, she was involved in an automobile accident that actually paralyzed her from the waist down. She needed a wheelchair for the rest of her life, but returned to school to earn her bachelor's and master's degree. She also went on to work for a shelter for battered women and became an advocate for those with disabilities as a board member for the California Association of the Physically Handicapped. Her daughter said, "My mom loved her Mouseketeer family. Getting together with her co-stars was always a high point. It gave her the opportunity to relive great memories and to meet so many Mickey Mouse Club fans that had watched the show as kids and loved her. Many told her that they named their daughters Karen in her honor." She also co-starred in many Mickey Mouse Club reunion shows and parades at Disneyland, and at fan shows and convention. She is also survived by 2 grandchildren.
And we wish the family our condolences. All right, let's come back with our insightful picks of the week. To you, my dear.
So, as I had mentioned last week, I was going to try and keep with a certain theme for the month of October, to keep with spooky Halloween horror type things.
So this is Flashback October, right?
Sure. Well, last week it wasn't as old of a movie. This one is. What are you trying to say?
Okay, go ahead.
So this happens to be one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and it is Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's actually the 1992 version that was directed by Francis Ford Coppola and obviously based on the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. It starred Gary Oldman as Count Dracula, Winona Ryder as Mina Harker, Anthony Hopkins as Professor Van Helsing, and Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker. Obviously, most people know the story of, Dracula. Count Dracula is a 15th century prince, and he's condemned to live off the blood of the living for eternity. And the young lawyer Jonathan Harker is sent to Count Dracula's castle to finalize a land deal. And when the Count sees a photo of Harker's fiancée, Mina, she happens to be the spitting image of his dead wife. He then imprisons him and sets off to London to track her down. Nothing like a good stalker movie with some bats and rats and other things. This version of Dracula really is a love story. It starts off in the 15th century with Vlad the Impaler, and you kind of, find out, it's obviously not historically correct, in any way. Vlad the Impaler was a real person. When Bram Stoker wrote the novel, he kind of based it off of legends and things like that and put his own, twist to it. So the movie starts off where, he's fighting a war and he comes home and finds that his wife has committed suicide because the enemy of who he was fighting sent a letter to her saying that he had died in the war. So she didn't want to live...
Very Romeo and Juliet.
Right. She didn't want to live without him, so she killed herself. And then, he's told, that her soul will never be saved because she committed suicide and it's a sin. And so then, he basically has a whole out, holy war and basically becomes immortal from drinking blood. So that's kind of how he turns into this Count Dracula. And then again, so many, centuries later, Harker, poor Jonathan shows up and he happens to see this picture and it's, somebody that looks exactly like his wife. So, in his mind, it's his wife reincarnated.
Right.
And, he goes to London and he basically, woos, Mina. And, and she kind of has flashbacks of this former life. So you kind of, in the movie, you kind of feel for her, realizing, oh my God, maybe this is a lost love. And then obviously everything kind of goes to hell in a handbag.
This was the one with the Dracula makeup job that was described as a baboon's butt, right?
Yes, that was his hair.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, they actually they were nominated for 3 Academy. This version of the movie was nominated for 3 Academy Awards and actually won Best Makeup, because if you see, the various incarnations that Gary Oldman goes through as Dracula. You see him as the warrior, the 15th century warrior. Then you see him as this, 500-year-old man, 400-year-old decrepit thing with the baboon butt hair. And then all of a sudden he becomes this, dapper, the 18th century, this very well-dressed, nobleman, and so it's just amazing, makeup and whatnot. So, some of the acting, like Keanu Reeves' part,
nobody really expects Keanu Reeves to act, so that's okay.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's one of those, it's so cute, but it was nice to see, Anthony Hopkins, plays they're just anything with Van Helsing, he's just hysterical. And he's like, of course I'm going to cut off his head. Da, 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 da. And what? And I think for me, it was kind of the love story part, because the tagline of, the movie was "Love Never Dies."
Right.
So that just, and
by the end of the movie, Keanu Reeves is like, dude, where's my wife?
Right, exactly. And this was actually back in 92. I was in college, and for some reason I was just obsessed with this movie. I actually went and saw this like 3 or 4 times in the movie theater, and it was probably one of the only movies that I've actually, ever done that with. So,
well, good pick.
And because of the Halloween season, it is going to be on, regular TV, obviously a little cut up and, some of the language and some of the violence taken out. But I think like BBC America was going to be playing it, coming up in the next couple of days. So
an oldie but a goodie.
Yep.
All right. We'll be back with my pick. So I didn't go back in the archives for my pick this week. Mine was produced in 2019.
Oh, okay.
And shockingly, it's a documentary.
Oh my God. Was it on Netflix?
It was actually on Netflix.
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
So I'm going to go with the great hack this week. Data, arguably the world's most valuable asset, is being weaponized to wage cultural and political wars. The dark world of data exploitation is uncovered through the unpredictable personal journeys of players on different sides of the explosive Cambridge Analytica Facebook data story. The Great Hack explores how a data company named Cambridge Analytica came to symbolize the dark side of social media in the wake of the 2016 U.S. presidential election. And I don't want to get into the politics of this, but watching this and seeing the information that came out and how it was used, you could probably say that no laws were broken by certain political figures.
Okay.
But what was done was morally questionable or ambiguous.
Okay.
And what was a really interesting takeaway here was that Cambridge Analytica really didn't do anything legally wrong either, even under, because they had an entity in the U.S. and they had an entity in the U.K. And the movie starts out with this one particular individual who was made to understand that his digital information was being cataloged and indexed and used for marketing purposes.
Okay.
Big shocker. And there wasn't any legal recourse he had to get this information out of the company that had it in the U.S. Then he found out about the subsidiary in the U.K., and there were U.K. laws. And he pursued those laws, and the company was basically ordered to turn the data over. They failed to turn the data over, pled guilty in a criminal case, and then the company went bankrupt and all the assets were liquidated. So all that data was, no longer available. But as they dig into it, the really interesting thing about this documentary is they actually went in and interviewed people who were involved in the process. Media people, executives from Cambridge Analytica, people who were literally in the trenches.
Okay.
And they establish a history of how Cambridge Analytica used multiple sources, Facebook being one.
Okay.
They bragged that they had 5,000 points of data on millions of people, 30 million people of which they were basically getting profile information from Facebook. And they had put out a questionnaire on Facebook, which was a targeted questionnaire. And that targeted questionnaire started to develop what, we've all heard of. I can't think of the word now. But what they did was they were using this to target certain individuals that they thought could be influenced in an election.
Okay. Kind of like profiling.
Basically.
Yeah.
But then the step further that they went was they then looked at these, they got permission from the people as part of this agreement for the survey to look at their friends lists.
Okay.
Then they went and started scraping their friends' pages to get additional information on those people.
Okay.
Now, Facebook had admitted to giving access to these, but then relinquishing or removing that access. And at one point in time, Cambridge Analytica had said that they had deleted the data. Proof came out later on that they hadn't had it. They had retained the data and were continuing to build profiles.
Of course they deleted it.
So the interesting thing here was they used this information to influence elections around the world. Talking like countries like Guyana, Trinidad, Belize. I mean, they had their hands in so many other countries around the world. And it wasn't even so much that they were trying to run campaigns. They were trying to do suppression campaigns.
Wow.
In one case, it was in Trinidad, and this is based strictly on what was in the movie. There in Trinidad, there is an Indian population and a black population, and they were both vying for political power. And they ran a campaign that encouraged the black people in the country to not vote as a means of protest. And they turned it into a social phenomenon in the country. And just by suppressing about 6% of the black votes, they were able to swing the election in favor of the other party.
Oh, wow.
Then they dig even further and they talk about how Russia gets involved. So Russia's not directly involved with Cambridge Analytica, but Russia is made aware of some of the connections that are involved here.
Okay.
So then Russia then buys up millions of dollars in ads on social media like Facebook.
Okay.
Supporting and encouraging white supremacy. Then they wind up funneling money into Black Lives Matter, all in a push during the 2016 election to cause a race war, to cause this divide.
Okay.
And it was a divide that was fueled by the work that Cambridge Analytica was doing. Cambridge Analytica came up with the whole crooked Hillary idea.
Okay.
That the Trump campaign managed to contract out to Cambridge Analytica, and Cambridge Analytica basically became the PR firm for
Oh,
them.
wow.
And they look at the spending, and you look at the Trump campaign spending something like over $600 million on digital ads during the 2016 campaign, and the Clinton campaign something like 20 or 30 million. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, so you'd have to watch the movie to get the numbers. But it was one of those things where it wasn't necessarily against the law to do it, but it probably wasn't in the best
Pretty
faith.
shady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a UK journalist who was targeted by this as well, because Cambridge Analytica was involved in the whole Brexit deal as well,
Okay.
pushing Brexit. They had even run a third party, what we would consider a political action committee on our side here, to basically influence the vote. And this journalist was opposed to it because she knew how it was negatively affecting the democratic process, and they targeted her to discredit her. And it was just the way it was laid out in the documentary showed how blatant it was. It just was undeniable. And the premise of it was to show that in today's digital society, you just can't have a free and open election anymore because of how influential digital media is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think they kind of drew the wrong conclusions here, and they vilified Cambridge Analytica and some of these other bodies. But in reality, it's us, the people, that ultimately are responsible for this, because we're the ones who willingly give our data to these companies. Some things you can't go off the grid. You just can't and function in society.
Right.
Financial transactions, credit card stuff, certain things you can't get away from. But the lesson that I took away from this documentary is that why would you voluntarily give people information? Answering these goofy surveys,
Right.
Oh, how do you get your Jedi name? And you answer all this information, and you at that point in time have become the product. And that's one thing they point out very good in this documentary, is that, there was one politician during this hearing in the UK who basically asked, Facebook, how do you make your money? How much of your money, how much of your income comes from people's data? And the answer was astonishingly, it was like 97% of what they do comes from people's data.
Oh, wow.
And we have no control over it. And that's really the scary thing. You've seen some things come out of this at this point in time to try and control some of this stuff, but really it was a documentary about data rights. Like, you have a right to your data. You have a right to know where it's coming from, who it's being given to, what it's being used for. And you have companies like Google and Facebook and these other people that they're monetizing your data. And there was a point in the documentary where they talk about how your data became more valuable than oil.
Wow.
Your data is the number one commodity in the world now. So if there's anything to take away from this, it's keep that in mind. You wouldn't go around giving away money to people. Why would you give away your data, which is more valuable than the money that you spend? So it was a very interesting, very eye-opening documentary. And I would recommend, anyone who operates in the digital world, which pretty much is everybody, especially anyone who's listening to this podcast,
Right.
watch the documentary and understand just where some of the pitfalls are and learn how to defend yourself in this society. So The Great Hack, streaming now on Netflix. I think that's all we had this week, right?
That is.
So we will be back next week with another one. I don't think we have any conventions or anything between now and then.
Nope.
In the meantime, you can check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com. You can get the video of this on youtube.com/insightsintothings. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings, or you can hit us on Twitter at insights_things. I think that's everything.
I think that is. So
right.
Don't give out your information.
Yeah, don't give out any of that information. Right. That's okay. We fuzz all of our data, so we're okay.
So we're all good.
All right. We'll be back next week, folks. Thanks for watching.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.